Today, the Rules Committee is convening to consider legislation that deals with the balance of power as a presidential administration ends. Current law, the Congressional Review Act, provides the primary check on regulatory overreach by allowing Congress to reverse a rule by resolution. However, that is a single rule. Any additional rule requires its own separate resolution. Administrations of both parties tend to overwhelm Congress at the end of their term with hundreds of new rules. These are known as midnight rules, representing billions of dollars of new regulatory burden. For example, each of the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations submitted over twice the amount of rules in the final year of their administration compared with the previous three combined. The executive branch has exploited the inefficiency of the CRA, leaving our constituents to bear the burden. H.R. 115 makes the needed improvement to existing law to allow Congress to catch up on this expected onslaught of new regulations that predictably will happen as the Biden and Harris administration leaves office.
Let me also begin by sharing our prayers for the folks out in Madison, Wisconsin, where there's been yet another school shooting, this time the Abundant Life Christian School. Reports are saying that several innocent children have been injured. We know of at least 2 deaths that have been confirmed, a teacher and a student. It is really quite tragic. And I guess the question we need to ask ourselves is, when is enough finally enough? When are my colleagues going to stand up and give a damn about the gun violence in this country? It is insane. It is totally nuts that we are wasting more time here in the Rules Committee on bad legislation that will go nowhere, instead of actually doing something about issues like gun violence. If Republicans work with us, we could be passing the Assault Weapons Ban Act. We could be passing the Closing the Bump Stock Loophole Act. We could be passing the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, but we're not, because they refuse to lift a finger. They refuse to stand up to the NRA. They refuse to reject those donations that keep rolling in from the gun lobby. And so they do nothing to address the shootings in our schools and the violence in our streets. They won't lift a finger even though most gun owners want them to. And instead, they bring up absolutely pointless, absurd bills like the ones we're meeting on today. Does anyone really think we have to pass the Midnight Rules Relief Act? I mean, this was copied right off the pages of Project 2025. It's a deliberate attempt to overturn important federal protections that help consumers and everyday people. And make no mistake, this is about handing over the keys to special interests, corporate donors, billionaires, and Wall Street. And this bill is about gutting protections that safeguard our health, safety, and environment. It puts polluters, corporate monopolies, and fraudsters ahead of working families and children. This bill won't even pass the Senate. It certainly won't get signed into law. It's another waste of time. I had hoped that we would have passed a CR by now to avoid a government shutdown, but we haven't. Speaker Johnson vowed to pass all 12 appropriation bills separately without resorting to continuing resolutions. He even promised that he wouldn't send us home until after we got all of our appropriations work done. And then what did he do? He sent us home for 6 weeks, which is why we are here again, scrambling to pass a funding bill 4 days before money runs out. We didn't have to be in this position. All Republicans had to do was work with the Senate and work with the White House on a bipartisan plan. Instead, they wasted time talking about culture wars and washing machines. And so we are left with another broken promise, and we're kicking the can down the road because Republicans choose dysfunction over compromise every single time. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.